In a very recent interview with Famitsu, Monolith Soft leader Tetsuya Takahashi spoke a lot about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, its development, and what else has been happening at Monolith Soft. The biggest takeaway was Takahashi explaining the first production studio was split into 3 teams, one working on Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive, one working on a new project, and one working on both. Now, depending on which English news site you read, it might have been suggested that this other project is the new IP we've heard very little about, or even Breath of the Wild 2. But it's most likely neither of those. I don't think many people know how big Monolith Soft have become, so let's take a look at what we know about Monolith Soft's 5 separate studios and the projects they are currently working on. Let's start with a quick breakdown. Monolith Soft has 4 Tokyo-based studios and 1 Kyoto-based studio. The Kyoto-based studio is in Kyoto for a reason. This is where Monolith Soft assists Nintendo with first-party titles, and it is almost certainly the studio that is working on Breath of the Wild 2, as it was the one that worked on Breath of the Wild. The 4 Tokyo-based studios include the first production studio, headed by Takahashi himself. This is the studio responsible for Xenoblade. Another studio is headed by Yasuyuki Hone, and this is the studio we believe is developing the new IP. We'll get to the reasons for that in a minute. The other 2 are relatively unknown. One was opened in 2018 and another in 2019, but we don't know what they were opened for or what their goals are. It's possible they are simply supporting studios, helping out wherever is needed. They could also be working on smaller scale projects or projects of their own, or something completely different. One of them is located suspiciously close to the Bandai Namco headquarters. In the Famitsu interview, when Takahashi explained how the first production studio was split up, he also gave a timeline for the development, stating that both Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and the new project had an internal presentation in May 2018, with actual work beginning in August 2018 after Torn of the Golden Country was completed. This pretty much rules out the new IP being the new project in Takahashi's first production studio, because the new IP has been in some form of development since 2017. They made a recruitment posting for the new IP way back in August 2017 and were specifically looking for developers with a knowledge of Western trends. Yasuyuki Hone's studio hasn't really been majorly involved in any project since 2017, largely only having a special thanks credit next to his name for various Nintendo and Monolith Soft projects since that time. Now, Takahashi's first production studio also had 2 recruitment drives in 2018 and 2019, and they were both for a Xenoblade project. It may be that those recruitment posts, appearing with all kinds of Xenoblade art and branding, were specifically for Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and the other project is totally unrelated, but I think it's much more likely that the new project is whatever the next Xenoblade is, whether it be Xenoblade 3 or Xenoblade X2. It would make sense that 3 separate teams were able to work cohesively on 2 different projects if they were somewhat related. The only other recruitment drive was for the Kyoto-based studio about 6 months before Breath of the Wild 2 was announced, and it was for a Legend of Zelda project, which is what makes the Kyoto studio assumptions so very obvious. All in all, I think it's safe to assume that the Kyoto studio is working on Breath of the Wild 2, the first production studio under Takahashi is now entirely working on the next Xenoblade, and Yasuyuki Hone's studio is the one developing the new IP. That does leave us with 2 unknowns, but the major players are covered. All I can say is, it's a good time to be a Monolith Soft fan. What are you most looking forward to? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks for the liking, subscribing, and the sharing!